Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Great to have you here with me this weekend. We're looking at our weekend winter storm winding up across the Northeast with snow, sleet, freezing rain, and rain. We also have a midweek system, especially across the East, Mid-Atlantic region. How much snow could we see out of that? And we're also going to be watching an Arctic blast. And the polar vortex, a piece of it's going to break off. It's going to be full swing with tremendous cold air blasting across eastern North America over the next couple weeks. We'll see just how cold it could get. We'll also be looking at your tropics from the Caribbean, Western Atlantic, and Central America. See how much tropical moisture we could be looking at. Let's get into it. A quick sneak peek on snowfall totals I'm going to show you throughout the video. We could be looking at staggering snowfall totals for many, some areas approaching as high as 1 to 4 feet over the next couple of weeks. So we'll take our weekend storm here, and then we'll transition into total winter storm mode throughout the rest of the forecast period. You can see we got a lot of strong to severe thunderstorms here across the south. We'll have to watch out for some of these gully washers heading north. Now look at here. The rain snow line, ice line moved through Cleveland and Pittsburgh earlier in the day, and we're starting to get that snow breaking out across the Catskills, Poconos, White Green Mountains, Adirondacks. I-81 corridor on eastward and northeastward here. That rain snow line moving through New York City, southern Hudson Valleys. We head through 11 p.m. You see the ice pellets and the freezing rain taking over. Now we're going to see that ice, snow, rain line edge to the southeast. Cleveland, you're still getting into the rain here. Very big push of warm air. It does start to erode here. 2 a.m. We're still socked in with ice across northeast Pennsylvania, upstate New York, Catskills, Poconos. But you see that rain snow line slowly moving to the north here, although these ridge tops, you can see the topographic terrain here. That's where we're going to see that freezing rain locked in for longer here through 7 a.m. It's the valleys that are going to warm up, change you over to rain. So if you're in a valley location, you're likely going, southeast of this line, you're likely going to be rain. But to the this area here, obviously the higher elevations will see that freezing rain locked in longer. 1/4 to an inch in some areas, even higher to 1/3 of an inch. Not out of the question. You see through noon on Sunday that we continue to erode that, except for the eastern Catskills up through their Adirondacks. We get that rain snow line all the way through New England. I want to back up just a tad. Look at that period of heavy snow through New Hampshire, Vermont, and southern Maine here as we stretch through the overnight. Finally, we get to that sleet, freezing rain mix through Sunday afternoon here. And look at the backside. I don't want to leave you out here in Ohio. Look at that rain snow line through 10 a.m. You're back over to heavy snow around Cleveland, Akron area down to Columbus towards 11 a.m. Sunday. And that kicks to the northeast here. You can see almost like a squall line moving through Boston all the way southward here. So watch out. Some of these could be a little convective across Long Island. And look at what happens. We kick that rain snow line all the way up to New Brunswick and northern Maine. Behind it, though, these 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts are going to set up these lake enhanced bands on the backside of it. This is where we could see some whiteout conditions through 11 p.m., even after midnight, off Lake Erie, Lake Ontario region here. Heavy snow in these bands, wind just howling. Yeah, the lake effect's going to be very prominent onto Monday as well. We get a little bit of a Georgian Bay connection here off Lake Ontario, and there you have it. So taking a look at our snowfall amounts here on our NAM 3 kilometer, you can see the front end of this system very much in agreement with this general 2 to 5 inches here before switching over to sleet and freezing rain. And then as we stretch through Sunday, here on the backside, this is where we get Cleveland closer to that 3 to 5 inch, close to 6 inch in some areas, especially the east end of town on northeastward towards Erie. So here it is. Take the whole forecast period through the weekend into Monday. Obviously, you can see where the heaviest snow is lining up further to the northern tier here. This southern end, this is where we do start to change to sleet to freezing rain, and then over to rain in many areas, especially in this region here. As the rain snow line pushes to the northeast, heavier totals up here into parts of northern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. Think you'll eke out a good 6 to 8 inch range here into these purple zones. All right, so we look at freezing rain here. I know it's mostly overdone, as it usually is, using the NAM 3 kilometer FRAM here. So this gives us an idea of where the heaviest ice is going to accumulate. Don't focus too much on some of these amounts, closer to 3/4 of an inch. That's a bit ridiculous. But here we go. You ultimately get to see, let's just zoom in here. You can see It's the ridge tops. It's the topography here. You see through central and southern Pennsylvania, this is normally where you see that quarter to a third of an inch, with locally higher to a half an inch possible. Most of these amounts are a tenth to a quarter of an inch of freezing rain, and that is pretty much an agreement here. The valley locations will see a tenth of an inch or less, but here in the eastern Catskills and Poconos, this is where I think some of you could eke out a quarter to a third of an inch pretty easily here into western New England as well. And here we go. I wanted to take our mesoscale model for this wind outlook. We head through the NAM 3 kilometer, and you can see there's pretty good agreement here. We're going to see some very forceful wind gusts here. I think a lot of high wind warnings will go into effect. But look at this. As we stretch through middle to latter part of Sunday into Sunday night, this is where the wind's really going to start to howl, especially these areas closer to 50, 60 miles an hour wind gusts here. As we head throughout Monday, it's just going to be a miserable day with those winds blasting out of the northwest behind this system, averaging in the 40s here. So we're going to see tremendous winds here closer to these yellow zones. That's where we're going to get closer to the upper 50s, lower 60 mile per hour wind gusts here. And look at this. We don't start to get into Monday night. We're still dealing with these wind gusts above 40, 50, 60 miles an hour here. And picking up where our future radar left off, as we continue through the latter part of the weekend, you can see that storm rolling out of the Ohio Valley into the northeast, snow on the backside of it, wind, 40, 50 mile per hour gusts here. Really blow and drift the snow around. That heads up into the Canadian Maritimes. I'll show you in my Canadian weather outlook in several minutes from now in this video. But look at this. As we head through the 18th here, as we get to next week, we see another storm organizing across the southern plains. And the Gulf Coast area, we see that return flow of tropical moisture meeting up with the cold air, and that's where we're going to see mix and ice as well as heavy snow on the northern side through Missouri, southern Illinois, through the Ohio Valley. This storm looks like more of a southern cutter here, and I'll show you this momentarily on the European model. You can see the cold air is going to be deep across the east, so this is going to get that rain snow line south of Virginia Beach through Raleigh here, this area ice. And look at this, it tries to make a little jaunt up the coast here the 19th into the 20th. You see that area of low pressure starting to form with lots of deep Gulf moisture here on the southern edge of this. This is going to come up and wrap around, and this is where you could see some heavy snow. We'll be keeping an eye on it because we got several days to watch this. The 20th, that's heading on into next Thursday, and this could bring parts of the big cities all the way up through the I-95 corridor here with some very heavy snow, depending on how close to the coastline this tracks. You see those isobars coming close together? That is going to be gusty winds on the backside of the system, and that heads out. We got a little light clipper moving through the 21st, and look at this, another southern cutter here. Could we actually have wintry precipitation once again near the Gulf Coast states here, and the Gulf Coast itself is quite possible. Yeah, it's bringing back some memories from a month or two ago. We'll have to keep an eye on it. That kind of pushes across the Gulf of Mexico here. Cold high pressure building in as we head through the 23rd into the 24th, as we head into our deep freeze here. Little return flow. Moisture across the Florida Peninsula here, heavy rain and thunderstorms, and then you get into some shower and thunderstorm action up through the Outer Banks here. And look at on the backside of it. Looks to be too warm here for snowfall until you get up towards parts of the Northeast, as we do get a little warming trend. This clipper moving through right around this time. So we've backed off a little bit on those storms as we've seen the cold air really take over with that Arctic plunge. As we head through the 28th, the 29th, you see it's a little bit marginal at this point for heavy snow conditions as we get a lot of these systems moving up through the Great Lakes, bringing these almost like squall lines through and some much warmer air. All right, so we'll take a look at the European run here. Very similar setup. You can see that severe weather on the southern end of this system, so very, very ugly side of the system, unfortunately. But look at this. As we head in time here, ultimately, you can see that warm air winning out here across Saturday night into Sunday. That rain snow line moving very far to the north here, just northwest Ohio, southeastern part of Michigan, and eastern Indiana. That's where the heavy snow is going to be. Also into northern New England, that rain ice line making it to the north here. 984 millibar low across central and eastern Pennsylvania here as we head through noon on Sunday. That's going to wind up that isobar situation in the Northeast. Look at how tight those isobars are. The wind's going to be gusting over 40, 50 miles an hour. So it's going to be tremendous wind as we get through the latter part of Sunday night, even into Monday morning, this system pulling out to the northeast, leaving in its wake just a bunch of wind, even on into Tuesday. We're still dealing with this low kind of retrograding throughout parts of southeastern Canada. Now, as we get into Tuesday, we get our southern system here, as was depicted on the GFS. There's that heavy snow, ice, and severe weather across the Gulf Coast region. That's going to rage to the eastward here across the southern states, all the way through southeastern Louisiana, the Panhandle of Florida. Heavy rain to the north. And look at this. This is where we get that polar vortex. That big high pressure, this 1050 millibar high, is going to spill this cold air to the east here as a piece of polar vortex breaks off. And look at to the north here. This is where in western North Carolina, even North Georgia, up through parts of Virginia, Delmarva area, we could see some very heavy snow here on the north side as this becomes a coastal low. And it does try to make a run up the coast here as we head through Thursday the 20th into the 21st. We see some heavy snow. This is going to be our next system we're going to be watching. We'll see if it actually tries to ride all the way up the coast. There doesn't appear to be any energy to capture it, though, to bring it much closer. But here's another system, that southern cutter moving towards Florida. This could be a severe weather outbreak for you in parts of central and south Florida through the 23rd here. But look at this. All in all, high pressure is really in control across much of the east as that cold air really spills in. All right, so let's take a look at our European run here for snowfall amounts. Yeah, it's mainly confined to northern New York, northern New England here. That's where you're going to see those 6 to 12-inch amounts. And then come midweek, there's that system that ejects from the plains into the mid-Atlantic. That's where we're going to see, some totals approaching a foot or more. In some of those same areas this past week, we just saw heavy snow. That rain snow line actually heading into Virginia Beach area, right around 6 inches. We'll take a closer look at that, but look at that. Lots of snow here across the east. And zooming in just a little bit here, you can see, yeah, this is going to stretch from the plains into the east come midweek. There's our system up here in the northeast. Got a little bit of few snow holes here going on, depending on the track, as you can see the popular storm tracks this coming week. And looking here at our GFS run as we head through the weekend here, obviously we can see what's going on as far as heavy snow. GFS kind of going a little more potent here across parts of Ohio, especially northern and eastern Ohio on the backside of the system with 6-inch plus amounts. There is that system come midweek. It's a little bit further to the north here on the GFS. GFS has been running a little bit warmer, and a lot of these systems have been running warmer. So the GFS has been verifying on a lot of these systems. But look at this. This would get South Jersey more in on the act to this foot or more. So that's a really interesting development as we head through the end of the month. In the beginning of March, you can see where the storm track's going to lie, especially across the north here. We just zoom in just a little bit here. You can obviously see northern New York, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. This is the big winner, southern Quebec and Ontario. And then here across parts of Delmarva, maybe South Jersey, although South Jersey's been getting missed a lot lately, as much as most of New Jersey. Look at Virginia here, though, eastern Virginia. Just around Richmond on north to D.C., this corridor, you really could get hit with a foot or more. And looking at our GFS regionally here into the northeast, there is our system Saturday night, and Sunday, pushing those warning criteria snowfall amounts further to the north, just to the north of the New York State Thruway, through Vermont, New Hampshire, easily 6 to 10 inches, locally higher amounts potentially. Look at here as we pivot back towards northeast Ohio, northern Ohio. This is where the GFS goes crazy. Look at that, right around 6 or 7 inches in Cleveland, Erie, Buffalo, Syracuse. Yeah, the GFS going colder on the backside with more lake-enhanced snows. You can see we just pile up these snows here in northern New York, the northern Adirondacks, White and Green Mountains, up to the northern tip of Maine, getting well beyond. Now look at here as we head through Wednesday into Thursday. This mid-Atlantic system gets cranking. Could this get parts of New Jersey into that 12 to 18-inch zone, even New York City towards a foot and Long Island? We'll have to see because the Euro is a bit further south with that polar blast, Arctic blast coming in from the north. But ultimately, you can see as we head through time, the GFS storm track is further to the north in time, giving areas from the New York State Thruway on northeastward here tremendous snowfall totals approaching 4 to 5 feet in some areas. Now, looking at our European run, ultimately we can see going on here, there is our weekend system dropping a quick 2 to 4, 5, 6 inches here on the northeast side of the system. Now, as we stretch through the Sunday here, they're on the backside. This is kind of more what I'm thinking of course, with the European. Even the European, though, is going closer to 6-inch total with this system near Cleveland up to Erie and Buffalo. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. It's probably the lake enhancement kicking in behind it, as the flow pattern looks pretty conducive for it from Cleveland up to Erie and Buffalo, approaching 5 to 6 inches in many areas further inland. And then look at there, into the northeast, we're going to eke out a good 6 to 10-inch snowstorm here across parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and then look at northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. This is where you're getting beyond, 17, 18 inches. Here is that mid-Atlantic system come midweek, right around Wednesday, Thursday. This run of the European has pushed a little bit further to the north, with Atlantic City getting towards 13, up to central and northern New Jersey, up towards, the 6 to 8 inch mark. We'll see if this verifies. Southeastern parts of Pennsylvania. Look at Virginia here, Delmarva area. We're going to go a little bit further to the south momentarily, but you can see in time the storm track remains further to the north, and a little bit of a quiet period showing up here through the end of the month on the Euro. And heading over to the GFS run, we'll compare that with our European run here. You can see there it is. We just stretched through midweek, and there it is. Richmond, Virginia, all the way up to D.C. There's 12 to 18 inches. Some areas approaching 20 inches. Look at New Jersey here. This could, if this verifies, this could be your big storm here in New Jersey. And I don't want to leave you out up here in parts in Indiana and Ohio. Obviously, a lot of this falling this weekend here into Ohio on the backside of the system. But look at, you do get some advisory criteria piling more snow on top of which you already got over the weekend. So we could have some stripes showing up here of closer to by middle to latter part of the next week here, up towards that 6, 8, 9 inch totals. So it's something to look for here. Now looking at the GFS into the northeast, there is our system for the weekend. It's the backside of the system, Cleveland, northeast Ohio. This is where you get the lake enhancement behind it, these 6 inch totals, and all the way up through parts of northern New England here. The New York State Thruway on northward. This is where you get into the warm sector. You erode those snowfall totals pretty quickly. A good shot quick here on the north side of it, through Binghamton, Ithaca area, northeast, where you might, eclipse up to 2 to 5 inches here. Let's take a look at the wind field associated with this system. Obviously, it starts out with the severe weather across the south as we head through Saturday night. That nocturnal event going on. Look at this. Let me just zoom in here, because this is where things really get crazy. As we head through Sunday morning, look at this. Yeah, winds gusting over 60 miles an hour. This is even outside of thunderstorms. And then we start to gust up here into parts of New Jersey, southeastern New England, Pennsylvania, and we get these ridge tops approaching 50, 60 miles an hour. Even the valleys getting into 40 to 50 mile per hour range here. So we do push this off the coast, the Appalachians, all the way through Pennsylvania. This is stretching onto the Sunday afternoon and evening. Look at parts of the Catskills. Could be approaching 70 to 80 mile an hour gusts here into the eastern Catskills, Pocono region. Watch out. It does cut off pretty fast, though, as we stretch through Monday night here. So all day Monday, we're going to be dealing with gusts above 40, 50 miles an hour in some spots here, and that just continues on to Tuesday here. We're still getting those winds approaching 40 mile an hour gusts. It's not till closer to Wednesday that we start to pull that out of the northeast here. And here we are with our severe weather. We're talking about an enhanced risk here into this orange zone for later Saturday, in particular across northern and eastern Louisiana, all of Mississippi, southeastern Arkansas, southwestern part of Tennessee, all the way through much of Alabama as well. That area in the yellow, that's a slight risk, and marginal risk here into the darker green. This is going to be a big severe weather outbreak, damaging straight line winds, maybe some isolated tornadoes as well. And then Sunday, we do it all over again, South Georgia area through northern part of Florida, and then a marginal risk all the way up the East Coast here. So thunderstorms, slight risk here across the deep south, and then a marginal risk all the way up into the northeast. You could actually see thunderstorms as far north as New York City and Cape Cod. And the real ugly side of this storm, I wanted to show you the severe weather we're going to be looking at here on our future radar through 7 p.m. Saturday evening. Look at this convective activity. There's going to be a massive squall line and enhanced risk of severe weather as we head through Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, these areas. Watch out. This storms could be all the way up just south of Cincinnati here. This squall line really organizing, and unfortunately, it's going to be a nocturnal squall line here as we move through Mississippi, western Alabama, central Tennessee, Tennessee all the way up to central Kentucky. Look at this. We could have convective elements all the way up to southern Ohio here. So gusty winds along this. Damaging wind is going to be the main threat beyond 65 miles an hour. Look at this, 6 a.m., we're talking about a massive squall line moving through Atlanta, Columbus, these areas down to Panama City. This could be a very sharp line of damaging wind gusts. And look at this, through 10 a.m., we're going to sweep the squall line all the way to the East Coast. Look at some parts of New Jersey, all the way down to Delmarva, the Outer Banks, all the way down to Gainesville and north of Tampa here. It's actually going to push through the Tampa area around 5 p.m. It's going to move through the Outer Banks right around 3 p.m. on Sunday, the 16th here, and then look at that. Yeah, you could have some convective elements up here in the parts of southeast New England as well. All right, so Torcon parameters here are going crazy as we head throughout the afternoon into the evening hours of Louisiana, parts of Memphis, all the way down to Jackson. Look at this, through 10 p.m., we're pivoting it towards New Orleans as we head through 1 a.m. This is going to be a nocturnal tornado outbreak. So yeah, some areas will see isolated tornadoes, while other areas here are likely to see widespread tornado action throughout southeast Louisiana, eastern Mississippi, into Alabama. And look at this. Through 4 a.m., we pivot it through New Orleans, Gulfport, Mobile, Alabama here, and is stretching towards Pensacola and Crestview here as we head through 6 a.m. Sunday morning before slowly waning here. All right, so we're taking a look at total liquid equivalent precipitation here on our European run. Now, as we take it through the weekend and early next week, you can see where all the liquid equivalent, the northern side, the initial shot will be frozen precipitation. But there it is. As we just progress all the way through the 23rd, you can see where the east is just opening up in terms of heavy, very heavy moisture here across the east. Some areas getting upwards of 2 to 4 inches. Even the severe weather outbreak areas, 4 to 6 inches. Look at the Pacific Northwest down to Northern California as well, getting up into that 4 to 8 inch range. And before we continue with more weather coverage here, I have plenty more to talk about with this winter storm outlook as well as your tropical outlook. If you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates. Let's continue. If we take a look at our upper air pattern, as we continue through time, you can see the troughs continuing across the east as we head through the 3rd and 4th week of February here. We're just going to continue with one impulse after another. That is going to keep things stormy. Now, watch as we head towards the end of the month, we start to get this East Coast action really kicking in with cold air. So it's going to be one system after another, plenty of cold air to work with. And then as we head towards the first week of March, that's when we start to see ridging across the U.S. East Coast as a trough flips out west here. All right, so our polar vortex outlook here, this is going to be the thing that's going to drive our winter force through the next couple weeks. So here it is. It's centered right around northern Greenland, northern part of Canada, and you start to see it become more elongated right around the 24th of February. Let's just back it up to the 22nd. I want to show you this. So we'll start out here. You can see how it slowly drifts. The 17th, 18th, it's pushing towards North America through the 19th and 20th. See this darker blue shading? This is that piece that's going to break off and head southward, and it's going to meet up with some very positive amounts here off the U.S. East Coast. That's going to create that baroclinicity that we've talked about to help feed these storms. And you can see throughout the February 23rd, 24th, we do get another drop down here. You can see this bullseye, so to speak, polar vortex pulling north towards North Asia again, where a piece of it breaks off. You see these positive readings in the Gulf of Alaska. That's what you want to see for cold and snow into the eastern part of North America. And you see that polar vortex just drifting towards North Asia here. And we'll have pieces of the polar vortex break off. You see these lighter blues as well. It's not till around March 1st you'd start to see these more positive, warmer colors as the polar vortex completely pulls out of North America and goes towards Asia. All right, so the NAO index here, surprisingly, we're going to go from neutral to negative here the 3rd week of February into the 4th week. Then we pull it much more positive towards March. So this is a big complete turnaround from what we saw. So it actually looks like February, the rest of February is going to be below average temperatures, maybe above average snowfall here, but then we head towards March. could we be looking at an early spring for many across the east? And if we take a look at our MJO index here, yeah, this is where we start to slide. It's kind of obscure here, but we're starting. And then look at this. We ultimately are pinwheeling throughout the rest of the month here towards phase 8 and eventually phase 1, 2, and eventually 3. So yeah, we're going to go through an active phase the rest of February here, and then we get into March. We get more towards phase 2s and 3s here. That's when things are going to start to become a little quieter across the east with more ridging. And if we take a look at the tropics here, I wanted to show you all of the Caribbean, Central America, the Western Atlantic. As we go through time here, we're starting off kind of quiet, which is kind of nice. I know some of you do need the rain, though. Look at Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. Looking mostly clear through a few showers through Belize, Honduras as we head throughout the latter part of the weekend into early next week. We do start to see evidence, though, that a frontal boundary is moving across the Gulf through the northern Bahamas. And then look at this over here. We got a little bit of a flare-up of showers moving through the Lesser Antilles through Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. Jamaica, you're just on the northern side of these showers as they kick westward. Honduras has a clear day right around the 20th. And look at this. As we head through the 21st into the 22nd, ultimately what we're seeing is this front to the north stall across the Bahamas. It's going to increase moisture here across the western and central part of the Caribbean as we go through time. You can see some showers kicking up around Jamaica through the Cayman Islands the 23rd into the 24th. And you see this easterly flow. Look at over to the northern Bahamas. This is where you're getting lots of torrential rain all the way down through Belize, Cancun, Guatemala, and then eventually northern Honduras as we head through the 26th, 27th. If we just zoom out just a bit, you can see there's a lot of storminess, especially southeast of Trinidad, Tobago, St. Lucia, and up to Dominica here, Guadalupe. These areas here, we're looking at showers moving through the Lesser Antilles. And then March 3rd here, we make it into the first part of March. Look at this. Yeah, we do have some scattered showers, but look at it's clear as a bell here in the northwestern Caribbean. Thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for our European model analysis here of the tropics. You can see as we stretch through Sunday into Monday, you can see some scattered showers here across the western and central Caribbean. The European has been going wetter here across the Caribbean and Central America, whereas the GFS is pulled way back on rainfall amounts. So here we go. As we stretch through Monday, there's that frontal boundary across the north. Ultimately, you can see where the trouble spots are. Through parts of Honduras, Belize, down through Costa Rica, and all the way here into the northern part. Even the central Lesser Antilles really getting hammered here with some scattered showers throughout the day, especially that diurnal heating with the sunshine. So as we continue through Tuesday into Wednesday this coming week, you can see that showers, that easterly flow continues across the eastern Caribbean, reaching Jamaica right around here on the European run, right around Thursday the 20th. Pushing through some heavier showers here, and we'll get to those rainfall amounts momentarily. But through Central America, you get those scattered showers here throughout the northeastern Caribbean islands as well through February 21st. And I wanted to show you this briefly. This is where we're seeing a tremendous here amount of all of this sea surface temperature heat across the Gulf, the Caribbean, and Western Atlantic. Look at this. You know, we're far from the start of hurricane season, and we're already getting in some of those temperatures approaching 2 and 3, sometimes 4 degrees here. And heading down to the tropics, here on our GFS model, you can see that heavy precipitation across eastern Nicaragua, down to Costa Rica and Panama. Those are the only two areas we do start to see towards next weekend. Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, we do start to get in on the act here, you know, anywhere from 10 to 20 millimeters. Eastern coast of Belize, upward towards 60 to 70 millimeters. And then look at here as we stretch through the end of the month into the first part of March. You can see some heavier showers, eastern parts of Puerto Rico through the northern part of the Dominican Republic up towards 60 to 80. North coast of Honduras, some of these areas approaching 100 millimeters all the way down through Costa Rica here. Most of Jamaica reporting anywhere from about 15 to 35 millimeters. Locally higher in the eastern part, close to 60 millimeters. So with our European run, you can see this coming week's kind of quiet. Maybe some splash and dash showers around Hispaniola here, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, all the way down through parts of Honduras and Belize. Nothing more than 30 to 50 millimeters on average, though. It's towards the end of the month we really start to see that surge across Jamaica, right around the 40 to 60 millimeter range. And then Central America, Belize, that's going to be the big winner in terms of rainfall here, up towards 70 to close to 100 millimeters in some areas. And as we head to the eastern Caribbean here, yeah, central Lesser Antilles here, up to Puerto Rico, and Dominican Republic. These areas probably are going to see the most rainfall, 30 to 60 millimeters on average here on our European, locally higher through the Central Lesser Antilles here, upwards of 60 to 80 millimeters, especially those eastern-facing coastlines and ridge tops. Trinidad Tobago, you might see upwards of 19 to as much as 25 millimeters, but not as much here as the Northern Island change in the northeastern Caribbean. So for our Canadian weather outlook here, what is going on up here in Canada? Well, it's going to be very active along the west coast, British Columbia area with these Pacific systems, as well as southern Ontario and Quebec, where we'll continue to get buried in snow, and I'll show you those snowfall amounts momentarily here. Through the 16th into the 17th, you can see the storm winding up across the northeast Sunday into Monday. It does get that rain-snow line further to the north here over southern New Brunswick. Heavy rain and wind across Halifax, Nova Scotia here, all the way Prince Edward Island, mixed precipitation. This pulls up to the northeast, gets the rain-snow line across central New Brunswick before changing back to some heavy snow. Quite a bit in the way of centimeters here we're talking. Like I said, we'll get over those amounts momentarily, but through the 19th into the 20th, it gets really quiet across Canada. Just extremely cold with that Arctic plunge as a piece of that polar vortex really heads south across the United States. Now, we're going to see a parade of systems towards the end of the month here, the last week or two across the west coast here of Canada. It's just going to continue to pile up these snowfall amounts in the mountains here, heavy rain and wind along the coast. Now, we get a little bit of a light clipper moving through southern Manitoba right around the 23rd into the 24th. It kicks off a few showers around the Great Lakes, and then right around the 25th, we see a much stronger area of low pressure pushing to the south. It does tap into some warm air, but it will not get that rain-snow line too far to the north, so it'll stay all snow showers. Now, look at this. Come the end of the month, the 25th, we do get a big low pressure winding up. It does tap into some warmer air, though, keeping Nova Scotia and even eastern parts of Newfoundland here with rain and wind, snow further inland here. And then we get a few more systems through Alberta, the Rocky Mountains out here. And some of these systems will clip New Brunswick as we head into the 1st of March. We'll have to watch this because, a lot can change between now and then, but we get one system after another. Yeah, March. This can really be the month for coastal storms, and this one looks like it's no stranger to that. With some of these storms heading inland as well, southern Ontario, Quebec, we do start to see the rain-snow line move through Toronto and London. So taking a look at our snowfall here across Canada, take a look at this. So the west coast, obviously, the lion's share, as well as southeast Canada here. Let's just take a zoom in here, and we'll take a look and see. Yeah, look at this. This is southeastern Canada right here. Look at some of this. We're getting up towards areas closer to, 20, 30 centimeters in some of these areas. So Nova Scotia, you're getting into the warm sector. Look at the west coast as well. This is where we're getting into 70 centimeter plus easily in these mountainous terrains. So as we take a look at the rest of your weekend here Sunday, ultimately, this colder air is spilling down through the plain states here. That warm air up here in the east being drawn up. Early highs in Pittsburgh in the mid-50s with temperatures tumbling. Look at that. Your early high in Cleveland's 38. You'll be falling throughout the day. As we stretch on into Monday here, the 17th, look at this temperature disparity. The storm action's going to be intense here when you get negative teens for highs, and then you're down here in the 60s and 70s along the Gulf Coast. Really crazy. Getting down into the 20s and upper teens here in parts of the Northeast as we head to Tuesday. This disparity just continues. Look at this cold air. This is that Arctic blast that was advertised here across much of the East. Look at the Gulf Coast areas. Some areas approaching 80 degrees. Well, you won't even get above zero here in the parts of the Northern Plains. As we head into Wednesday, look at this. Northern Texas down to the 30s. Teens and 20s here into the interior Northeast and Ohio Valley. And watch this. As we stretch throughout the weekend to Thursday, that 32-degree line is very far to the south. So any systems that we get here across the south, you could see some snow and ice on the northern periphery. And look at that. That cold pool of air exists all the way through Friday, February 21st. The extended forecast from hometown viewers being to the Grand Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Look at this. The rest of the day, Saturday and Saturday night, you'll see that snow mixed with sleet and freezing rain, changing over to rain after midnight. You could see, a total of 3 to 5 inches with up to 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain likely. Sunday, we just clear it out with just rain. This is where the winds really start to howl, 20 to 40 miles an hour, gusts up to 50 miles per hour plus possible. Those winds rage into Sunday night with a few snow showers, everything freezing up, wind gusts over 50 miles an hour. For Monday into Monday night, just gets really cold and extremely windy. High will struggle to reach the low 20s into Tuesday, barely 20 into Wednesday as well, as we continue to equalize those temperatures with below average temperatures. And before we continue with more weather coverage, check out these amazing, awesome maps from my affiliate here. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone, share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.